Hi, I'm Amber, and welcome to the Lone Star Keto podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, and she's a friend, and her name is Tracey McBeath. Welcome, Tracey.
Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
Oh, Tracey is awesome. She actually put together the very first all-female summit, all online. She did it by herself. It was crazy. And I was lucky enough to get to be one of the, I guess, presenters, if you want to call me that. And it was the coolest thing. It really was. And I will have a link so you can go check it out. You can still access it. How much is it now? What was it for? $49 for life?
Well,
what is it?
It is $49, but this week, this is probably not going to come out this week, but it's
right.
half price at the moment. I might leave it. It's not very much money at all. It's $25 at the moment, pretty much Australian. So that's even less.
Yeah, and there's like really awesome presenters too, and so it might be something to check out. But she took this on all by herself. Can you tell us, since I brought this up, can you just tell us a little bit about that? What was your experience? What did you learn? And like what was the, I guess the positive things about it too?
Yeah. Wow. Well, a huge experience, definitely the highlight of my career, organizing something like that. And it was just kind of dropped into my mind one day. I've got a podcast. I've been doing it for a little while, and I was talking to a low carb GP who's also in Melbourne. And she and I were talking about the fact that in the low carb space, it's very male dominated. And there's, they've done such great work. But it's usually men in suits getting up there telling predominantly women what to eat. And wouldn't it be great if one day there was a much more a female focused type of thing? And, I said, yeah, of course. But, it didn't even occur to me that, maybe I could organize something like that. We were just saying it'd be nice. And it was definitely an area. And then a couple of weeks later, I kind of just woke up one morning and how things just inspiration, it kind of just drops. And, when you know how it works and when you trust that there's something bigger than you at play here, that ideas will come and that you don't have to question it. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, gosh, I can't do that. Or, or why would I do something like that? Like I didn't question it. I had this idea and it came to me to do an online one. And this is before COVID, there was none of this happening then, but I just thought I could actually wouldn't it be great if I could put together something that was all online, like a 3-day summit type thing? And I just thought, okay, I'm not going to think beyond my terrible technology capacity. I've got no idea about technology. I do have an 18-year-old son in my pocket, which is great. But I didn't think too much about that. And I just thought, I'm just going to put it out there. Because of my podcast, I had a lot of contacts, female. And I thought, let me see if there's interest. And I did. I sent an email out. I said, look, I've had this idea. What do you think? Would you be keen to be involved? Oh, my goodness, I was overwhelmed. Yes, please do that. Yes, what a great idea. 100% I'll speak. And I thought, right, I'm going to do it. And I just literally took it one step at a time. And I did do it by myself. As I said, it was really big. Would I do it again? Maybe not. But, it was just such a huge learning experience, overwhelmingly positive. And, look, there was a few technical issues I did have to get my son to help me with, but I learned so much. It was just wonderful. It was amazing. And I had 3,000 people at one point online watching it live over the weekend. It was just phenomenal. And the feedback afterwards was incredible. So amazing. And I guess, we create a lot of self-talk and beliefs about what we can and can't do. And had I paid attention to a lot of that, I never would have done it. And even now I look back and think, oh, wow, how did you do it? You have those experiences where it was kind of like an out-of-body experience. But you do it when you focus on one thing, one day at a time, one step at a time, it does all comes together. And while you're doing it, it just feels like you're just taking one little step, but then it becomes this big thing that, it was great. It was amazing.
Well, I am very impressed, girlfriend, because I'm going to tell you, I did my own website, and that was huge for me because I am so not technical. So to take on something like that, and you consider yourself not technical either, oh, I can't even imagine. So kudos to you, and y'all, you really should check it out because they are some wonderful presenters, and it was a really well done summit. So check it. I'll put it below, so it's all good. Anyway, well, I kind of just jumped all over a bunch of stuff, but you know, since I had brought it up. But can you tell us a little bit of what you do right now? You consider yourself to be a mind and body health coach. What exactly does that mean, and how does that work in your everyday life? Like, how do you deal with your clients, I guess?
Yeah. So mind and body coach, to me, is for overall health, we need to look at both. You know, like for so long in my career, I was just body. You know, I was a personal trainer, and then I became a health coach, and I didn't learn any of the mind stuff while I was studying. You know, this was all an on-the-job thing. And what happened was, I would start to see women. I would speak to women who had years of habitual emotional eating or just dysfunctional relationships with food. And, you know, a lot of these women sitting in front of me had a better knowledge of nutrition than I did. You know, they didn't, you know, need me to help them with the what to eat. It was the other stuff, you know, and it was like a huge piece of the puzzle missing for me. And of course that took me down a huge path where I you know, I was like, right, I've got to, there's something missing here. There's something I'm missing. And I didn't really know at the time, you know, that there was a lot missing in me, you know, like I didn't have the answers for a lot of the things that I was still experiencing. And in terms of, you know, how that's brought me to now, it is mostly the mind stuff that I do now. And I'm not a psychologist, and I don't think you need to be a psychologist, because my job is just increasing awareness. My job is I can sit there in front of my client and I can see their potential. I can see what they're capable of. I can see what every human being is capable of, because I know the gifts that we are born with. And I see how habitual thought, limiting beliefs, what other people think of us, what other people tell us, how that gets in the way of us getting where we want to be with our health. So I guess I'm playing with changing it to a transformational coach, because I think that's kind of what I do. I help women to transform to their true potential. And food is a big part of it. Definitely a big part of it, because obviously what we eat affects how we feel. And when we can fix that up, you know, we get a lot of, you know, that brain fog lifts, we get a lot of clarity, we get a lot more energy. And then of course it flows a lot from there. But what I see happen so much is just those connections that we have made with food around our feelings and our emotions. And unless we confront those and deal with those and see that we can shatter those, that they're not concrete, it will keep us from getting to where we want to be.
I could not agree more with you. And what you're saying about the mind part being a lot of the coaching, I find that with my coaching too. And it's not the diet that most people have the issue with, it's the mind part. And that's what I'm finding myself more and more having to help them with. So I'm like branching out kind of like what you did, and I'm getting more and more education on that so that I feel more confident and know that I'm kind of approaching it in the correct manner. And, you know, I have my experience and I know how I dealt with it and what I felt, but I want, you know, just more. So I think that's awesome. And there's so much more to it. Like you said, the diet is huge, but there's so much more to it. And speaking of that, I'm going to get a little personal with you because I think it's kind of important. You struggled with emotional eating and also like an alcohol habit. You want to discuss that a little bit? I think, you know, a lot of people struggle with the same thing.
I did. And I think I didn't want to know it for a very long time. You know, I think we tell ourselves, this is part of what I do. So we tell ourselves a lot of stories to justify the behaviors that we do. And it can be very confronting to to become aware of it and to acknowledge it and to see that, okay, well, the end of the day, I want to be here, but if I keep doing behaviors that are taking me over here, well, I'm never going to get here. So you have to have courage. It's, you know, really the main ingredient is courage to confront what's going on and the behaviors of, you know, that you're building around you. And, you know, look, I have 5 children and I have been through a divorce, and I've had a chronic illness when I was younger, in my 20s, and all these factors that I guess play out with what we create, the behaviors that we create, and the coping mechanisms that we create around what we do. And for me, yeah, it definitely was the drinking and the chocolate every night. But because I was younger too, and I was a personal trainer, so, you know, it didn't become an issue until it became an issue. So when I hit 40 and, you know, then my health started to turn, and I found low carb. I changed my diet. I went down that rabbit hole and learnt, and it's like, you know, wow, why on earth am I in my job telling people to eat low fat and eat 6 times a day and all these healthy whole grains? Oh my gosh. I mean, that was a huge thing, and sugar, of course. But the other side of it took a little bit longer because I didn't have the answers for myself then, in terms of the, you know, 5 o'clock came. So my habit, 5 o'clock, I looked at the clock and I told myself, you've had a tough day with the kids, you're tired, you deserve it. And I didn't have any other awareness other than that. And I was like, I had a short, you know, when you're training a dog and you have them on a very short leash to just help them. I felt like I was on that, and my thoughts and my beliefs were dragging me around on that short leash all the time. So in that moment, I felt like I had no choice whatsoever. There was no other option. The other options were just too painful. I wasn't even going to go there. So, you know, for over 10 years, I kind of did that. Then, of course, with my work and starting to see what my clients were, the issues that they were having were very similar to mine. And I was like, you know, that was like, okay, there's got to be more to the story. And yeah, so going down the path of learning how habits are created in the brain, you know, how we work as human beings and the fundamental gifts that we have within, you know, things like resilience and confidence and stuff. That's not stuff we have to learn. We actually have that. And all that gets in the way is all this stuff that goes on in this little computer brain we've got, which is an amazing organ. Yeah, but it tricks us. It tricks us. And until I saw, until someone said to me, you know, you do have a choice in that moment. And I'm like, really? You know, like it was literally that. In any given moment, we have a choice. But if we don't see we have a choice, we don't feel we have a choice. And just someone saying to me, you know, you have a choice. You can sit with the discomfort of the urge. This is what's going on in your brain. This is what you've innocently created. Now that, your brain's just doing what you've created, and it's going to keep doing that. It's going to keep coming up. But you know what? You don't have to give into it. You can ride through that. It may be uncomfortable, and it was physically uncomfortable. I felt it in my body. And I don't have the urges now. They've gone. But it took a while. You know, they would still come up. But, you know, I'd just say, Tracey, you're okay. Even though you'd feel that you're not, and even though your body is screaming at you to go and do that habit, you don't have to do it. You're okay. What are you going to do instead? Where are your kids? Go and do something, you know, like something would just occur to me to do instead. So it took my mind off it. It switched my thinking around, and you know, eventually as what happens, it goes and goes up and then it drops off. And I was like, okay, it's passed and I haven't done it. And every time I didn't do it, I got more empowered. I felt stronger. I can do this. But of course, sometimes I did give in, because sometimes, you know, we do, you know, in that moment, it might have just been 3 nights of no sleep with my kids. My kids might have been, something might have, my husband was at work, whatever. And, you know, I did have times when I would do it. But you know what? And what I've seen and what I've learned is that that's going to happen, and we're all human beings. And what I said to myself in that mattered most. If I told myself, well, you're weak, you're not disciplined, you know, what's the point now? You might as well just go on back on doing that every night. You know, like whatever it is we tell ourselves is what's going to matter in that moment. And I learned to say, you know what, Tracey, it's okay. So what? In that moment, you didn't feel like you had that choice. Again, just momentarily, I forgot. But tomorrow, I do have a choice. And, you know, those few little hiccups that happen, you know, just it seems like a world away now for me and a completely different person. And I didn't go through any, you know, there was no feeling like I was, that's the other thing. You feel like, you know, that you're broken, that I was diseased, that I had a problem. Mm-hmm. The people that helped me to see that it's the other way. Let's look at it the other way. You're not broken. You're not diseased. You are actually, like everybody, beautifully created with all these gifts. You've just forgotten it.
I love that. I very much remember even saying it out loud that I was broken. I was just broken. Mm. And, you know, this close to just going, I'm destined. This is my destiny. I'm going to just be fat, depressed, and unhealthy. And it's, you know, no longer something I can fix, you know, that close. So I get that.
Heart.
Yeah, I know.
It's so common. Yeah. I can't tell you, the women that sit in front, and you would have this too in your work, you know, it just breaks my heart how we see ourselves like that. It's so common.
Yeah. And you know, because you experienced it yourself and you know that feeling, that helpless feeling. And like I said, when I am coaching my clients, most of the time it is the mental thing. And that's a lot of it, because they feel like they're at that last thing. This is the last thing I'm going to try. This is it. I'm just done because I don't know what else to do. And I feel so crummy, you know, and I've had some that have brought me to tears, just literally brought me to tears. Mm-hmm. And because I know that feeling, and it's a horrible feeling. So, you know, I'm really glad that you got over that and able to work that through, because it is the most liberating thing. Would you not agree? It's like, you know, you have this monkey on your back and you're like off, and it feels amazing. Yeah.
And it literally is that, you know, like that's part of, you know, what I talk about is this lizard brain that we have, which is actually a part of our brain that creates these habits. And it is like a monkey on your back.
Yeah.
But I teach, you know, I show women you can distance yourself with that lizard. It's like the backseat driver. So he's sitting in the backseat, barking instructions at you, telling you what to do, telling you going too fast, too slow, no go here, you're worthless, whatever it is it's telling you. But at the end of the day, we're in the front seat with our hands on the wheel and our foot on the accelerator. So the control lies with us. We can tell it to shut up. We can break up with it, you know, but I didn't know that until somebody told me that. You know, and I thought whatever that lizard brain or that backseat driver said to me, was real, was true. You know, there was no arguing. Well, then that's just it. That's, you know, but it's not. It's just this function that we have in our brain that's allowed us to survive, allowed us to evolve, allowed us to, you know, you know, in times when, you know, survival was tough. You know, but of course it hasn't evolved to our modern day world, you know, and so it's
not
just
by a long shot.
Understanding that, no, but amazing when we can understand it, like it just stops having, you don't have to fall for its tricks anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a process. And it's something, you know, you got to take one step at a time. And I think people just think that, oh, well, just fix me and I'm good. But it takes a while. I mean, you know, and I'm still, you know, learning and changing and evolving and trying to overcome still some things that, you know, were in my past. So that's just something that I think, you know, you have to continually work on. It's not just something, oh, it's fixed, it's done, I'm good. You know, it doesn't work quite that way. Okay, well, you mentioned that you were for 12 years a personal trainer. Now, I'm really curious because during that time, I I'm pretty sure you weren't on the keto carnivore train. So how did that whole thing evolve? How did it go? What were you telling your clients? What were you recommending?
Oh my Lord. Well, not very good fix. I'm definitely trying to fix the bad advice that I have given out, but I didn't know better either.
Right.
That was what I was taught. And sadly, it's still the prevailing message that is given today. I mean, personal trainers in Australia are not actually technically allowed to give nutrition advice. They do. The small nutrition component we learn in our study is the dietary guidelines, basically. And they are at pains to say, if you teach outside that, teach anyone a fad diet, and they mention fad and they mention low carb, and they don't mention vegan, however, but they do mention low carb or paleo or anything like that, then you are at risk of being, delisted, and you can get into trouble. Now, I think a lot of people just ignore that. They still do it anyway. Yeah. But it was actually, I was 6 meals a day, keep your metabolism high, low fat, healthy whole grains. Don't come to training having not eaten a banana or something before you train. Just all the complete wrong stuff I told for years, but that's what I practiced as well until I hit 40. And then I'd had my 4th child. I couldn't lose the weight. I just was living it felt like a hangover every day. I mean, mind you, I was drinking the wine as well, but it was different. I had that on top of it as well. It was just, every day was very, very, it was a struggle just to do what I needed to do to look after my kids and my family. And with my work, so I was in a gym for a long time, but after I had my 3rd, I can't remember, but I set up my own studio. So I was able to work around my kids, but for quite a long time, I couldn't go back to work after I had. Plus I was fat. I was like, I can't be a personal trainer and stand there and tell people, clearly I'm not doing something right. What's going on here? But it was actually a client of mine told me about this book. It's an Australian author, David Gillespie, wrote a book called Sweet Poison, which was down the perils of sugar. I mean, that was the first book I read that I was like, wow, huge. So I cut out sugar. It worked a little bit, but then, a couple of years into it, I realized there was some missing piece of the puzzle. And then, my husband and I found Professor Tim Noakes, and we went further from there. But of course, during this time, I'm like, well, how am I going to continue to tell people what to, it was just going very much against now what I believed. I couldn't, I just couldn't justify it. I did it for a couple of years, and I kind of just said, look, this is what we're kind of supposed to say, but let me tell you what's worked for me. So, consider looking at sugar and, processed foods and all that sort of stuff. And then, I thought, what, I need to start, health coaching is, where I need to start getting into. And so I went down the path of doing that. And then I stopped. I thought, no, I'm stopping the personal training and just focusing on the health coaching side of things. But I'm acutely aware that I'm trying to make up for, years of the wrong advice. But it just is very sad. As I said, you walk outside the bubble of people, your tribe, your network, people that do believe and have, seen the light. You walk outside the door and most people still have absolutely no idea.
Yep. Yeah, and they're, so married to the guidelines because it is force-fed to us, from doctors to TV commercials to, what's said on the box of the product, whole wheat, heart healthy, low fat, like it's this whole big thing. And even celebrities, even on TV, they make little comments like, oh, I can't have that because, red meat's bad, and, stuff like that. And I just cringe, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, no wonder it's so hard for people to wrap their mind around that. I was one of those people. I was for most of my life. I was a margarine eater, and butter. Oh my God, no, you can't have that saturated fat. Bacon. Oh no, 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 you don't have bacon. Ooh, don't eat too much red meat either. Ooh, eat lots of the whole grains. So I bought into that too. So I get it, and it is kind of this radical idea. And speaking of radical ideas, you have kind of had, you kind of merged into carnivore. I want to hear your experience so far. It's still pretty new to you. Don't talk about the CGM yet, because I'm going to ask that after.
Okay.
Because I want to hear about that too. But just kind of talk about, number one, why did you decide to kind of go more carnivore, and what has the experience been like? What have you noticed? Any improvements? Any bad stuff?
Yeah. So number of reasons why. I think I've been very curious. I've followed you. I've looked at you and Sean Baker and a lot of other people for a few years now, and my husband's the same. And I think it was just a matter of I was ready. I did the low carb and then the keto, well, sugar first, then low carb, then keto, and it was kind of like there's just so much I'm reading about this now that I need to give it a go. And because for myself, I got to a point where I lost weight, but I couldn't lose I just stopped, and I had still quite bloated stomach, and my chest has never gone down. And, I kind of, my husband, he doesn't care, but I do.
I feel you. I feel you. It's like, why? Other people, that's where they lose. Why? It's like, they take from my legs, and I have these little skinny legs, and yet where do you think anything comes from? They're not here. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm destined. I mean,
Oh, that's funny. So I think I could have sort of, with my stomach, I was kind of like, well, you've had 5 kids, you're not going to have and I had 4 cesareans, which means I've got a lot of scar tissue down there as well. Yeah. So I had 2 emergencies, and then the last 2 was, they won't even let you try. So yeah, a lot of stuff in there. But, I eventually realized that there's a difference between the soft, spongy, spongy, pudgy stuff. That's okay. But I had some hard stuff. So I still had quite a bit of hard stuff around my middle. And I just thought, look, I'm going to give it a go. But also I've got a couple of clients with irritable bowel, and they've been seeing a gastroenterologist in Sydney called Dr. Pran Yoganathan, and he's been putting them on carnivore. He's a really big fan, as a gastroenterologist, of the effects of the carnivore diet. And I really wanted to be able to do this with them. And I have to be in a position where I understand, because I don't do dietary plans. That's not my job, but I want to understand the benefits and really feel what the benefits could be. So yes, I started. So I'm about day 25 or 6. I thought I'll just do 30 days. And I was kind of halfway there. Like my first meal I changed a couple of years ago to just being protein and fat. And then I had my veggies with my dinner. And then after dinner, I would have a couple of bits of dark chocolate. So in my mind, or I might have some berries and cream, or, in my mind, I didn't think I had that much to go, but I have actually found I had quite a few symptoms. So I have had a bit of the upset stomach, and it's kind of gone one way or the other. Like it hasn't settled down now yet, but I'm up to about 5 centimeters gone from my waist.
Wow.
So that is huge after years. And I told my husband, please, can I have a tummy tuck? And of course, I'm joking. I wouldn't, but I was like, I'm really fit. I've got great muscle. I train. I don't do a huge amount of running now, but I do a lot of weights. And I eat so well. I just feel like it's letting me down. What's going on here? And now I feel like I'm finally, that's been fantastic. I'm so pleased with that. And my chest has gone down a little bit too. But I'm having yes, which is great. But I've had a few interesting skin things come up. I've had a little bit of redness that's gone, but I've had a bit of itchy and a few skin. So I'm sort of detoxing, I think, a little bit through my skin, which has been interesting. Do you want me to share about what I discovered a couple of days ago?
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm saving that. I'm going to say that.
Okay. So that's how where I am at the moment. And I just spoke to Michelle Doka, the naturopathic
Love
doctor.
her. Yes.
She's fantastic. So she's going to help me with how I sort of go along this journey and see what happens. So at the moment, I'm not sure. I've actually got to take out eggs now. I was having eggs. So I was having eggs with my meat, and I was having still a little bit of dairy, but we're going to even take that out now and really go to basics. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear how all that goes. Okay, so I am like really intrigued with everybody who is doing the experiments with the CGMs, continuous glucose monitor, for those who don't know. And it is, to me, so valuable. And, to actually know first, I mean, just bam, right away, how a food affects you. Because, as you know, food affects people differently. Just because something jacks my blood sugar up may not necessarily do it to you. And so it is excellent information to know, or to have confirmed something that you can't kind of think you already know. So I'm really curious, what did you find that was kind of shocking to you? And what did you have that you already knew and have it confirmed?
Interesting. I think I was really pleased. So what I did, I had the 2 weeks. So you have it for 2 weeks, and I did a 1 week where I just ate I wasn't carnivore then, so it was my straight keto, if you like, lifestyle. And then I did a week where I played around a little bit. So I was really pleasantly, I was happy with the first week. Interesting, like my baseline was actually below normal, which I've since discovered that's quite common. Obviously, I'm making fat. My body's mostly fueling off fat, and it's not uncommon to have a lower than baseline. It just kind of sat. It was really lovely. It was so steady. Cool. Even fasted training, it only really a tiny bit. Obviously, if my body had to make some glucose, it did a little bit with that, but it didn't hang around much. It came back down. I did in that first week try a low carb bar. My little boy, my 5-year-old, loves these Atkins bars. I mean, they're all marketed as low carb. And I thought, I like it, so I'm going to have one, see what happens. Spiked. So absolutely, that was the only spike in that first week from having that. Otherwise, nothing. Even in the morning, I had my coffee with cream with a bit of collagen. There was nothing. It was just, it was really lovely. I enjoyed that first week so much, and I just felt that, obviously, I kind of knew. I'd had recent blood tests anyway. I knew I was metabolically healthy. I know I'm fat adapted. My energy levels are really good anyway. So I didn't, I would have been surprised if there was, too much movement there. But so that was the first week. That was great. And then actually one of my colleagues, I work with a GP, we ran a lifestyle change program, a low carb program together. And she said to me, you know what, you should do the dietary guidelines, the healthy eating plate for a week and see what happens. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not a bad idea. Why don't I do that? Blah, blah, blah. Because she's a dietitian as well as a GP. So she said, I'm going to write you a plan that a normal dietitian would write someone who wants to be healthy. Yeah, so she did. She wrote it. And you know what? I looked at it and I'm like, no way can I do this for a week. I knew straight away I wouldn't be able to do it for a week. And then I thought, you know what? I'll do it for a few days and see what happens. Anyway, in the end, I just did it for 1 day. The experiment was just, I haven't felt so crap in such a long time. It was terrible. It was an awful day. And I was actually stressed shopping. So I had to write my shopping list and, of course, go and buy stuff I haven't bought for years. And I was finding myself getting quite anxious about it.
I bet.
And my blood sugar went up. It went up. So that
I bet.
Like, yeah.
That's interesting
to
see that how bad stress can affect you, anxiety and all that. Yeah, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, so I did it for a day. So I just ate, the healthy cereal, low-fat milk. I ate 6 times a day. So the snacks, some healthy apple, you know, 2 pieces of whole grain bread with salads, and my blood sugar, doot, 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 doot,
Wow.
all day, and I couldn't get off the couch. And by the time I got to dinner, I was starving because I hadn't eaten, number one, enough calories, but I also hadn't eaten enough nutrients. Like I just, you know, there was hardly any meat. I had salmon. I was told to have salmon for lunch, a little bit of like a tin of salmon, but I was starving, and my head felt like my whole body felt like it was going to explode. My head hurt. And I just said, my kids are like, Mummy, what's wrong? Like, well, I'm only just doing some experiments, but that's it. I just did one day. I thought, no, I can't do any more. So I reset the next day. And I actually felt okay the next day. I was expecting to have a little bit of, you know, my blood sugars were a little bit up and down, but because I fasted till dinner. But it was pretty good. I actually felt all right. My energy was fine. And then I just tried like a few odd bits. So I tried some porridge, because up until I was 40, every morning I would have oats, low-fat milk, banana, honey, sultanas, and a glass of orange juice. That was my breakfast.
That sounds like
mine. Yeah. Oh, so I tried that, but I didn't put the sultanas or I put a little bit of honey, quarter of a banana, low-fat milk, and the oats, but a smaller amount than what I would have eaten in the past. I didn't have the orange juice or the sultanas. I kind of forgot about that. And but that was that went the highest. That was higher than anything I'd done on that trial day. On the day, went to 10.5 or something. It just skyrocketed.
Wow.
And within an hour, it had come back down and was heading below. Like I was just, it was just incredible. It was incredible.
But that was healthy stuff.
I know.
You must be broken, because that is healthy. Everybody knows that's healthy.
I know. I didn't eat anything that would be considered junk food. That's what I really want. You know, that was the biggest thing I wanted to show. You know, there was nothing I was eating that was considered unhealthy. You know, this is what people are told to eat. Now you might, you know, you could argue that going from low carb keto for 7 years to doing that, well, there's going to be, and you know, of course my body is probably going to overreact a little bit, but I want the pattern. I want to show people this pattern. So, you know, yes, blood sugar, obviously glucose is important, but we want to know how our insulin is working. Now,
yes,
it's not testing insulin, but you can see from that how your insulin is working. You get a really good guide. So if it goes up and it stays up for a long time, your insulin's struggling. So for me, it was good. Like I did go up and I did come straight down, which meant I felt, you know, I had to balance those lows and those highs, you know, like low, you know, they don't call it a roller coaster for nothing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I knew like my insulin, I know my insulin works well. So that was, you know, but for other people, if you're going up, you know, and it stays up and takes like 2 hours before it starts to come down, that's a big indication that insulin isn't working well.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, so I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, I bet. Now, in Australia, do you have to have a prescription to have one, or no, really? I wonder why in the world. You can
buy them online.
Wow. So what's the deal with the U.S.? Why do you think? Is it just like a money thing that it needs to be controlled or something? I don't know.
It's interesting because since, so I did it with a client, an old client, now friend, because she was the one. She said, I want to do it. And she said, will you do it with me? And I said, yeah, okay. So we did it together. And then, of course, posting about it, it was interesting. One of my girlfriends is a low-fat, low-carb dietitian. And she's also starting to become a diabetes educator. She goes, Tracey, I'm going to do it too. And then she said to me, because she started doing it and posting about it, and she said, someone said to her, you know, you shouldn't be doing this unless you're diabetic. And she said, what do you think? I said, rubbish. You know what? People are just scared of what's going to come from this. I think there is a bit of you know, what are we going to see here that you can't unsee? Because it's data, right? Now you can justify any way you like, as we do, what to take from that. But when you look at that as raw data, you can't hide behind that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it's prescription only over there. I'm surprised, because wouldn't they, you know, they love making money, don't they? So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it will change here too if it gets to the point where they're running out, you know, because obviously you need type 1 and type 2 diabetics definitely need it.
Yeah.
But, you know, to do one over 2 weeks, it could change your life.
See, that is what I think too. I think if more people had that chance to do that and see in real time what is going on, so there is no doubt in their mind, because some people, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because without, you know, being super in tune to your body, and if you've been eating that way, of course you're not going to be. So, you know, you don't know what's going on in your body necessarily, and you think it's completely normal. But when you see that, oh my gosh, I think it would open so many eyes. Now, I'm not saying that it would necessarily change people, because like you just said, people don't want to have to deal with that. So, you know, they don't want to have to confront that they might have to change the way they're eating, you know, for some reason. That's just this big thing.
Though it is, that's true, and that's true. As I said, you know, no one's going to change until they're ready to change,
right?
You know, until they're ready to let go of a lot of this and stop making up excuses, whatever. I mean, that's why it's you can only do what you do. You can't, you know, if someone's ready, they're not ready. But that's pretty confronting, you know. Like, you know, you can test after a meal, right, with just like the little one.
Yeah.
But to see it continuously for 24 hours, you know, it's pretty hard to hide behind it, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just curious. Because, you know, so many people have done it, and it's like, I want to document this too and show how things affect me, because you hear so many people, oh, a banana's not going to hurt you. It's natural. Well, I've used the, like you said, the little, you know, single test ones, and I can tell you what a banana does to me. I know what it does to me. And so, you know, to have something that you can actually, you know, see the whole day through would be really cool, because those little test strips are expensive, you know, having to keep doing it over and over to get a good baseline and reading and, you know, continuous through the whole day. That's a lot. Plus you have to keep poking yourself, you know. Did that hurt? Did the little thing that goes into your arm hurt at all? I was just curious about that.
Not at all. No, I had that question quite a bit.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, there's like, it comes with like a applicator thing. So you basically just put it on, it sticks in. I saw when you take it off, you see there's like a tiny, it's like a needle. It's not a needle because it's not hard. It's like almost like a mozzie, I reckon like a mozzie bite stinger. And it just kind of sits in. Obviously, it has to get to your blood because it's reading, you know. So I had a little tiny bit of blood come out when I first put it in. But then nothing, you don't even know it's there. Like I just occasionally I might knock it when I was taking my top off or something. And I'm like, oh, is it still there? But nothing budged it. You know, I'd shower, I trained, I did everything with it on. I slept with it on. It was all, you know, you didn't even know it was there. And then it got to the end of the 2 weeks and my girlfriend and I were like, how do you take it off? Do you know how to take it off? And we're like, oh, Google, you know, and you just basically take it off. It comes straight off. So
that's so cool. I'm going to do it. Now, in the U.S., there are a few places, and I know this one company called, I think it's called Sensio or something like that, and I'll look it up and I'll put it below, that you can actually go through them and get one, and they offer a program that goes with it. I guess that's why they can do that. I don't exactly know all the details, but I've been meaning to do that. It's kind of on my wish list, but I'll put the information below, because I think, you know, people really should see this. I think it is so informative, and any way you can learn more about your body, not somebody else, your body, the more 100%. Empowering that is, and you know how to approach things, and you understand. So the next time you want to, you know, grab that banana and chow down on it, you maybe in the back of your mind you're seeing that grab go and then you know, number one, what you're going to feel like, number two, what it's doing to your body. So I think that is so cool, and I'm jealous, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I am. Okay, so to make sure we don't run out of time, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, okay, you went to a functional therapy doctor here in the last day or whatever, 2 days, whatever it's been, and what did you find out?
Well, I went to in Australia, there's functional, nutritional, something like that, functional doctors. So they're GPs. They've done their medicine, they've done medical training, but then they go on and become a functional stuff. So they're looking at the root cause of things and trying to, so they are very worthwhile, but they generally have a very different philosophy. So in terms of, they're very big on plant-based and using, the rainbow and things to treat things.
The rainbow.
Yes. But I was also aware if I just went to my normal GP that I might not get the test that I needed. So what was kind of happening with me was I felt like I was maybe starting to go into menopause. So I started to get really mild, but I wasn't sleeping as well as I was. Felt like I was having a few hot flushes, other bits that we won't need to go in here, but other, lady things were changing. And I sort of thought I'd listened to a podcast by Dr. Peter Attia, the Drive podcast, and he had spoken to a lady called Carol Tavris and another person. They did a whole episode on estrogen, so estrogen matters and stuff, and how it's so important. And really it's a myth that estrogen causes cancer, but it's just such a need. With women we tend to, so men have a very gradual decline of testosterone, but for women it kind of just drops very quickly, which is why we can experience these symptoms. So I thought, I actually need to go and see if maybe this is happening. So I found a lady down the road who was that, and it cost me a fortune, which is very frustrating to think that as women, certainly in Australia, we can't get the tests that we need unless we spend a whole lot of money to get them. But for me, it was kind of like, okay, I don't have money, my husband isn't working, we've got, money, but my health is really important to me. So it was worth doing it. Anyway, the tests came back. So I went and saw her and had to get all the tests, and she looked me over, and, I'd had a recent blood test to look at my metabolic health, and she was just like amazed. It was, you're clearly very healthy. Clearly you've done a lot. She said, it's interesting. Let's check and see if what's going on. She said, I want to look at your thyroid, do it. She did a complete. So, most doctors will just do like a couple of thyroid tests. They don't do a complete one. So you can miss. It's like when you go and get tested for, how insulin resistant you are, they don't test the insulin, they test the glucose. But the insulin is going to give you the information that you need much earlier.
Right.
Well, the same with the thyroid. You need to get a complete panel, and most of them won't do it. So anyway, so I went and I got tested, and went and got the results the other day. And good thing is I'm not in menopause, haven't started. Clearly very, fine with all of that.
Good.
But she has, however, picked up the fact that I have Hashimoto's. I have an autoimmune condition.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it. She showed me and explained it all, and I sent my blood test to Michelle, and I didn't say what the diagnosis was. I said, this is how it's come back. And she said, oh, you've got Hashimoto's.
That had to hit you like a brick, because here you have been doing everything right for at least 7 years, plus you work out, plus all of this. It's like,
I know.
Had to be a devastating blow. I mean, it's one thing if you're sitting around eating potato chips and, watching TV and etc., but that's not what you've been doing.
So this was only a couple of days ago. So I've gone through a lot in my head, and I think, I know why I've got it, and I have had it, I think, since my early 20s. And I think had I not done, I'm so glad I did what I did at 40, because it means, as I said, these are very mild symptoms to me. But what we know with autoimmune is if left untreated, they will get worse over time.
Right.
And it can flow on to other issues.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think, so looking back, I know that, so I had actually, what I didn't know was an autoimmune attack, but I had one when I was 21. So I got really sick when I was traveling, and my body ended up breaking down. I had reactive arthritis all through my body, and iritis in my eyes. I couldn't see for about a week. All this stuff, and took a couple of years. And, as Michelle said to me, that's autoimmune, right? And I said, I didn't know then, but I only really realized it now that's what that was. And then, of course, I've had 5 children, 4 cesareans. My poor thyroid has probably been struggling for a very long time, but because I'm now so healthy, and metabolically well, it's, you know, it's minor symptom, you know, really. But I think what's happened is starting this carnivore, and now I know what's happened, and now I know why my guts are going what they're, you know, and Michelle said that's a sign that, you know, your guts haven't been as good as you thought, really. You know, you probably have had some, and that's what's going to take me a little while now, you know, to really, I'm not a detailed person. I'm such a big person, picture person, Amber, and this is quite confronting for me now, because I'm going to have to go down a certain path where I do have to really eliminate a whole lot of stuff. It's just a new path now. It's a new journey, but I'm very excited about what I'm going to learn and what I can share, and hopefully help others as well, because I know that so much of this is undiagnosed. I think my mother has probably had it her whole life and she's never been diagnosed with it. So, you know, I think we just accept, we're just told that this is normal. There's nothing we can do. Here, have this pill and off you go. Yeah. Well, it's just not how it should be. And you know, the fact that these tests are so expensive and that you have to go to someone to pay a whole lot of money to get them done is outrageous. It wouldn't happen if it was a men's issue. It just wouldn't happen. So I'm very passionate about, you know, well, I've been sent down this path now. I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to do what I can to help others.
You know what? I love that attitude. That is like, oh my God, that is like the best attitude ever, because here you are slammed with something and you've only had a few days to process this, and you're already looking at it and going, okay, all right, this is my path. I don't have a choice, but I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to help others so they don't have to deal with the bad part of it before it gets too bad. And that's awesome. And I think that's, you know, a really big message for people too, is that things happen. You evolve, your body changes. And what worked for you yesterday may not work for you today. And I am finding that out too, because I am in menopause. So I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't have the indicators to be able to actually tell, but I'm working with Michelle's partner, Dr. Jay Wrigley, and so he's helping me, you know, kind of balance my hormones. But the point is, that's okay. Things change, and you have to accept it and change with it, and that's okay. That's okay, because we should always continue to evolve. But you put a positive spin on it, and then you're looking to be able to use that to help others. I love that. That is the best.
Well, I think that's the everyone has that possibility, you know, to see it too. So I think what happens is, you know, again, understanding what would generally happens when we're confronted with something, or something changes in our life, or, you know, something happens that we don't expect. You know, we actually have a huge ability to be resilient and go with it and change and evolve. But what we tend to do is look longingly at the door that's just been shut in our face. So, you know, we look at it, you know, we will lament. We stay in that, I wish this wasn't happening. You know, what have I, you know, whatever it is, you know, and so we sit there staring at it instead of saying, okay, well, that door's now there. We need to open, I need to see something new and open a new path. And, you know, again, our wisdom and our, you know, our creation will guide us to what we need to see down there. So I haven't thought very much beyond. You know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, because I'll tell you, with what I've been told over the last couple of days, I kind of think, you know, for most people, they would be like, this is impossible, you know, but because I'm so far down the track, and I think I've seen, you know, the potential that we do have to adapt, we do have to change. We have to, if we want, well, you don't have to do anything, but if we want to be vibrant and healthy, and I want to be here for my kids and be a grandmother and, you know, watch them grow up. And I don't want them looking after me because I'm debilitated and can't look after myself. You know, I want to ultimately, talking to Dr. Ben Bickman yesterday on my podcast. What an amazing
That's so exciting.
Oh, he's so lovely. But he's like, you know, Tracey, we want to just go like that. Basically, you know, we should just go very, very quickly. Medicine, it has the huge capacity to prolong life, but it can't fix metabolic health. It can't fix these illnesses. it prolongs it. So you're just, and dragging
Right.
it out. The quality isn't there. I don't want that. And I'm
Yeah.
very, very strong on that's my why. And that drives me every day to the choices. So if I've got to give up my cream in my coffee and my dairy, which I love, I've got to give up eggs. I've got to give up a lot of things. I'm basically now for the next month going to be just on steak or fish or lamb. That's it. I mean, I've got two choices. I can either go, oh, that's too hard. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to keep, doing what I want to do. Or I can say, you know what, you'll be fine. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, it requires change. Yes, it requires time to sit down and plan things, especially with my kids and family and eat, fueling I've got family of 7 to feed. So we've always got choices.
Yes.
And it is, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. This is what I say to my clients all the time. It's not your fault. You are where you are, but it is your responsibility to take you where you want to be. I can light up the path. People can light up your path, but nobody can take those steps except for you.
I love that. Yes. And that is so true. And, like I just recently found out that my dog is diabetic. So I am now having to give my dog insulin shots twice a day. She's already on a thyroid pill, okay? So, and it's because of the crap dog food that I thought we would read the ingredients and we would find the best we can. And we thought, oh, okay, this is the good, and it says healthy, it's good, blah, they need this, the vegetables, all this kind of stuff. And so that's what we did. And we were actually in the process of transitioning them to both my dogs to a raw diet. And it was too late. And my diabetic dog, within 3 days of us first noticing some weird things happening, she's totally blind. Yeah. So my passion now is to educate people. Diabetes is a huge thing to me. Number one, I was pre-diabetic, and a big chunk of my family is type 2 diabetics. Okay. And just bad stuff. And so for me, that's a passion because there is no reason for that. None. That is something that is completely controllable for most people. There's always going to be exceptions. And I'm not talking type 1, I'm talking type 2. And, animals too. I mean, that is ridiculous. There's no reason for that. And so, people need to know that. So you got to take something tragic, and it's tragic. I mean, it's devastating watching it. It's devastating. And, watching her run into walls and, and to think that I'm the cause. But like you said, it's really not our fault, because we put our trust into, like the government guidelines, like what it's pet food. So obviously it's supposed to be good for pets. You knew the China stuff, some of the contaminants and stuff. Okay, sure. That happens. Okay. So you can kind of think that away, but you don't really realize just how much damage. And I think, we need to speak out more about that. So you can better believe I'll be talking a lot more about diabetes and whether it's, people or animals. So yeah. Well, I'm super sorry to hear that, that's what you found out. But I was talking to Nisha Salisbury, matter of fact, yesterday, and she has Hashimoto's. And so we talked about that. And there are a lot of people, like you said, who go undiagnosed because they don't have those very specific tests. So it's not until a whole bunch of other crap happens before it comes to light. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, maybe you do. Now let's test for it. Oh, yeah, you do. Well, whoop-de-doo, thank you. I mean, that was not helpful. So, I'm glad that you're already in a good place to begin with, because you've already dealt with a lot of stuff. And, now you know. So.
Yeah. And if you think about that, combined with the fact that most people are walking around with insulin resistance and they don't know their bodies. And, so we're just these, ticking time bombs walking around that, I just think so. The women that have this, they have no idea they have that insulin resistance as well. Now that is a massive part. It's all possible, there's all, things that we can do about it. But number one, you've got to be, you've got to go to a doctor that actually does the right tests in the first place and tells you. And then he's actually interested in dealing with root cause, not just masking the symptoms.
Right.
Because it's what happens with most people with all this stuff. So they get a pill for this, a pill for that, a pill for that, a pill for that. And then they, of course, they're depressed and feel crap. So they get a pill for that as well. Polypharmacy is just, that is what medicine is. That's what they are, certainly here in Australia. Acute problems, they are stunning. I mean, we have fantastic hospitals. If I break my leg, I don't want to be anywhere else. And the fact that we have Medicare, I mean, it's free for us. We're very lucky from that. But chronic, long-term diseases, we are crap at that. And unfortunately, we have to take the responsibility ourselves to get the right answers.
But there, like you said, there's so many people who don't know. So if you don't know to look for this or to understand, and this was a question I was going to ask you. I'm sure you hear people all the time that they're like, oh, well, I eat 20 bananas a day, or I eat cereal and Pop-Tarts, and it hasn't done anything to me. I'm healthy. Look at me. I'm healthy. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because actually my father falls into that category. So my father is 79 and he's a beanpole. He does have a bit of an insulin belly, but he's had all these, I've sent him off to low carb doctors to get all the right blood tests. And he has a genetic insulin sensitivity because he's actually fantastic.
Nice.
I mean, but he is very rare. And I think for him, that is a genetic component, but it's also the fact that my father never sits still. He walks everywhere. He's mentally active. He's physically active. He always has been. And I think that for him has been very protective. But for most people, and even for my father, this is what concerns me. This is what I was talking to Ben Bickman about yesterday, that insulin resistance, it doesn't affect the whole body. And it starts, where there's no rhyme or reason necessarily where it might start. Now, it might start for a young girl in their teens in the ovaries with PCOS, or it might start for a young woman in the breast. With our breast cells, the fat cells in the breast become insulin resistant, so we end up with breast cancer. Or it might, for someone like what worries me, my father, it might play out in the brain. So there might be, you increasing your risk of dementia and those types of things. There is no doubt that insulin resistance is the precursor to all these modern diseases. Now, as we said, you can either spend, 20, 30 years prolonging all that on a myriad of pills, trying, or you can prevent it in the first place by knowing what we know. Well, what increases insulin the most, what throws it out the most? Blood sugar, too many carbs in the diet. So, I just don't think, I think everybody would do well on a low carb diet. Everybody. And I don't think people that don't do well, I don't think they've done it right, and they haven't dealt with this stuff. But, overall, it is the diet that we have evolved to eat. And, I just think, I think it's going to play out somewhere. That's why I say, even with my father, it's playing out somewhere.
Yes.
But,
see, that's what I keep saying. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, yeah, you may think you're okay, but there are other things that are going on in your body that you just come to accept as being normal or part of aging or whatever, when it's really not. But you've just learned to live with it. So you think it's normal. And then you're like, oh no, I'm healthy, I'm fine. And then I've also heard somebody say, I'm only on 2 medications, statin and blood pressure. Only on 2. That is what is considered normal now. That breaks my heart, because once your eyes are open, you can't close them again. And, I probably would have thought that too, that, it's just part of age and you get on medication. That's just the way it's going to be. You're going to, have these aches, you're going to have arthritis, you're going to have this, that, and the other. And now I'm like, no, BS. No, I don't have to go down that path. I'm not saying I won't get these things, but I'm going to darn sure do everything I can to not. I'm not going to just
right.
go, oh, I'm not showing it right now, so I'm going to continue my behavior, you know.
See, that's these little conversations that we tell ourselves. We can justify anything. We do. That's part of being human.
Yes.
That's human nature. It's how it works. But we can see all beyond. We've got to see beyond that as well. And I think there's just so much potential for people to see new stuff and to see things differently. And, you know, health is everything. We take it for granted till we don't have it anymore. And you just have to watch one person die of dementia to know that you will do anything that you needed to do to prevent not only you going through that, but your family having to deal with you not knowing them anymore. You know, like there's just the flow-on effect is enormous. So if it's remotely preventable, why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah, and that is a shame. That is a big question. But so many people, like I've even heard people say things like, where you'll say, well, is it worth having that piece of cake and losing a toe, a foot, whatever? Yeah, that's fine. They can take it.
Yeah.
That is beyond my comprehension. But this is not uncommon. For diabetic people to say these kind of things, or well, I'm just going to eat the cake, but I'll just, you know, double up on my insulin or whatever. Oh my gosh, do you know what you're doing to your body? Guessing you don't, because okay, that may take care of the problem for a little while, but the constant insulin, you know, is going to backfire on you. It's like, you don't want to do that. It's not worth it. It's just not.
No, it's not. And it's interesting because a lot of my contacts here are low carb GPs, and they'll get the patients majority of the time. I don't want to do that. Just give me the pill.
Oh, yeah.
But when I feel so much compassion for those people because they are fearful. They are too afraid of the change and of all that, as I said, all the other stuff but we can see it's so changeable. All that stuff is changeable, but unless they're willing to look in that direction. Yeah,
exactly. You can lead them, but you can't make them. Yeah, but it's very heartbreaking because you're like, I think I could really help you here, but you know, it's sad. And you know, I don't think people really totally understand the whole health is wealth thing. I'll promise you, I didn't. Because when I was younger, even just up to 3 years ago, I was all about, weight loss. It's about the aesthetics. It's about looking good. And, you know, health, I don't care about that. I'll worry about that later. That is not my goal. I want to look good in my clothes, okay? I want to be hot. I want to wear a bikini, whatever. And I just kind of pushed the whole health thing out like it was a ridiculous whatever. Only old people worry about that. Well, now that I've come out on the other side, I'm like, people, health is everything. You apparently don't know what health feels like because until, you know, being unhealthy and then finding real health is just this eye-opening wow kind of thing. And you know, and I would have said the same thing though. So, you know, health, whatever. But that's right. I think you're lucky if you see it before you actually get diagnosed with something. You know, even just this little thing that's happened to me in the last couple of days, you know, it's going to change completely the way I see things. I mean, I am very much about health, but don't worry, I want to look good too. You know, I'm, you know, that's important to me as well. But the health now, that's 100% my number one priority. And, you know, I think every little experience you have will change you in some way. And, I think people are lucky if they do see it before they do get, you know, a diagnosis. So. But like what you said, it for me, it took a big old health scare, a lot of health scares clustered into a very short period of time to wake me up. And you know, but it took me a little while to figure out really the right way to do it because I thought I was doing it the right way. So, you know, but there's all that. But, you know, once you know, you know.
Did.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let me check the time.
Can you hear me? Because my earbuds have gone.
Okay. Well, actually, our time is pretty much up, but if you could give us one more little, what would you tell somebody, a piece of advice that you would tell somebody who is maybe struggling with their health or maybe has some psychological things going on? Is there a piece of advice that you could give them?
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. I think always hold on to hope. Never lose hope. But I think you need to confront the uncomfortable feelings and just know that you will be okay. I think change is never easy. It's not meant to be easy, and it will always feel uncomfortable. But knowing that and knowing that you're still okay and that you will get through it is a really big thing, and it opens up a lot of doors. So I think just knowing that and then taking one step. That's all you have to take. We're so conditioned into thinking we have to run a marathon in a day. We don't. We need to just take one step. Let that sit, get comfortable with that, and then you take another step. Now, I think mentally don't do that as well. Like mentally don't run a marathon. Don't think too far ahead. Try and just focus on today. And, the biggest practical advice I give people is start with breakfast. Start with that first meal. Start looking at making that real food and see how you feel after that, as opposed to eating the cereal or anything like that. One little change can have a massive flow-on effect. So, yeah.
That's perfect. I love that advice. And that is something that I kind of learned in my precision nutrition certification. And it is true, though. It's those little steps and, little changes, and they add up to big changes. And people do get very overwhelmed by thinking, oh, I have to go from A to B, bam. And also with that elusive finish line. I think once we get rid of worrying about the stupid finish line and understanding that this is ever evolving and changing and improving as we go along, and changes, our body changes, it alleviates that pressure that, oh my gosh, I have to finish this, because there's not a finish line. And that's what I tell my clients is like, just get rid of the finish line. Just get rid of that. Just don't worry about that, because there's no reason stressing over that, because there's not one. It's
and what are you going to do? That's the whole diet mentality too.
Yes.
Are you going to do it for 30 days and then what are you going to do? I agree. I think that's fantastic. There's no finish line. It's going to evolve for the rest of your life. I mean, I'm a perfect example of that now. And am I not? There's no finish line. Things are going to always come up. Like you can eat really, change your diet at 50 or 45. But what I've done up to that point, that's going to have some effect.
Yes.
There's just, I think just be curious and continue to want to learn, and never, the minute we think we know everything, we're close to learning anything new. So I think we just stay curious and enjoy.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that I've had to learn as I've, kind of grown too, because I had that mentality, where it's like me. But yeah. Well, Tracey, it has been a blast talking with you, my friend down under. I just love that. It's so fun. And thank you so much for joining me. And I appreciate everything you do. And I can't wait to hear about more of your carnivore journey. And y'all subscribe while you're here. Hit that little notification button, and also follow Tracey. She has a podcast. Check out her summit. I'll have it below too. I'll have all her stuff below, but check her out. She is an amazing lady. You'll love her. And isn't her accent? I mean, come on, if you're from the US, I mean, who doesn't love an Australian accent? Come on, So check her out. Thanks, Tracey.
Thank you, darling. It was lovely. Thank you so much. Mwah.
Bye.